Tells me I'm going live. All right, hello everybody. We're live. We are live, and we're going to discuss the Montreal Canadiens, the 2019-2020 schedule for their season. Did come out a few months ago, but I thought, hey, preseason's over. I still got 2 days before the first game of the season. Why not discuss these guys again? And before you guys ask, I actually want to try and get some non hockey related content up sometime soon. I do have a couple movie videos planned. I have one that I'm editing in the process of editing right now. I have a couple that I want to get started on. And I'm going to announce right now at the beginning of the stream, if you guys followed my old channel before it got terminated, you guys would know I did a little something in December, and I'm going to try and do it again. I'm going to bring back 25 Days of Harry. That's out of the way. Let's get into the important stuff. The 2019-2020 season is an interesting one for the Canadiens. We've got a decent schedule, I would say, personally. I mean, it's not the greatest. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, I'm gonna try and do this for the start of the season, but I want to get well, I already have a whiteboard. I gotta find it, but if I don't find it, I'm gonna get another one. I'm gonna try to get another one. I'm gonna put a whiteboard, just like right here, small little whiteboard, and I'm gonna track not all the stats. But I'm gonna track the Habs record, most goals, most assists, most points, and I'm gonna track everyone. Not everyone. I'm gonna track, like I said, most points, assists, and goals, whatever. Current record, last game, and next game. I think that's going to be fun to do. I personally think. I'm sure it'll be really fun to do. So we're going to get into the Habs season. This is actually a very impromptu stream. I actually just thought of doing it this morning. I was going to do it actually a few days ago, but then I was like, nah, I'm not going to. But then I was like, today, screw it, whatever. It's 11:30. I'm bored. Let's stream. Let's talk about the Habs schedule. So yeah, anyone who has any thoughts on the Habs schedule as we go along, please let me know. I was gonna make a Google Sheets for this, but I realized it would have taken too long. I'm gonna have it by the start of the season as well, which is in 2 days. I understand you can just go online and look it up, but I thought, why not? I'll have something fun. I'll put a spreadsheet myself, track all the games and whatnot, and yeah. So the first game, which is in 2 days as of the 1st of October right now, our first game is surprisingly not against Toronto. It is in Carolina, which is kind of cool considering Aho got offer sheeted by the Habs, and obviously the Hurricanes matched. I honestly think this isn't going to be a Tavares level of hostility, obviously, because they're not in Montreal, and Montreal has more class than New York. But I think this game could be an interesting one. Both teams are young. Carolina just named, I believe it's Eric Stahl or Jordan Stahl, one of the two that are still in the Hurricanes organization, as their captain. Aho doesn't have a letter. Weber is healthy for the start of the season, thankfully. Price should be starting. I see this one as a win for the Canadiens. Obviously, this is the only one of the few predictions I'm going to give in the video because it's the next game. I'm probably going to predict the next game whenever I review the game that had just happened. So once I get to reviewing Hurricanes, I'll predict Habs and Leafs. Speaking of Leafs, the 5th is the Canadiens and Toronto. I'm not saying the start times, by the way, just because I want to try and get through this in about 45 minutes. The Leafs are hosting the Canadiens, which honestly I would have tried to swap these two. I would have gone with Toronto as the home game because, spoiler, they're also the final game of the season for us, as it seems to have been the past few years. I'm not sure about before 2015 because that's when I started following hockey. But yeah, and then there's a 4-day wait between games, and it's in Buffalo that we're in next. And this is one of the problems I have with the season, or the problem I have with the season, the back-to-backs. I want to say the Habs have at least 10 to 11 back-to-backs and during this season. So that means that 22 games are going to be played in back-to-backs. 11 games we could be unrested for because it's a back-to-back, and 11 games we could possibly lose because it's a back-to-back. Now, obviously, I think the obvious problem here would be move the Buffalo game to the 7th if possible. Unless they're already playing someone there, then move it to the 8th and let Buffalo have a back-to-back, and the Habs don't get a back-to-back because we already have enough. And then keep the 10th game, which is Montreal hosting Detroit, our first home game, which is really, really funny because the past few years, Montreal has had a habit of dominating Detroit. Last year, I want to say it was the 11-1 victory with the hat trick for Tatar, I think. 2 years back, it was the 4-goal game for Pacioretty. I'm pretty sure it was 4 goals, unless it was 4 points for Pacioretty. I'm pretty sure it was 4-goal game for Pacioretty against Detroit. I don't know if that was Columbus, or Colorado. One of the two. I'm pretty sure it was Columbus. But we destroyed Detroit twice the past 2 years. I'm not going to expect it this early in the season because Detroit usually has hot starts to their season and then starts to decline, or at least recently, obviously, because they kind of have not made the playoffs in the past 4 years. But yeah, Detroit is our home opener, which is really interesting. The 12th, we're back at home in St. Louis. 15th is against Tampa, and 17th against Minnesota. I think the only real challenging team there would be St. Louis, really, because St. Louis, they're hungry. They're right off their Stanley Cup victory, and they're going to want to prove themselves. They're going to want to prove, hey, we're not just a flash in the pan. We can challenge for a second cup. And I think St. Louis is really going to give it to Montreal. Tampa, I don't see them being that hard for us to overcome. I mean, we nearly did it last year until Antoniemi screwed us over in the last minute and a half. And plus, I think the time they beat us 3-1, it was really a 2-1 game just with an empty netter. But we put up a really big fight. I'm pretty sure it was 3-1. But yeah, and then flashing forward, 19th and 20th, another back-to-back. Again, St. Louis and Minnesota. Those are 2 early games, 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. each. Again, I don't like how many back-to-backs we have. My apologies, I'm going to be yawning a lot. It's kind of 11:30 in the morning. But yeah, St. Louis and Minnesota in a back-to-back. I'm not liking how many back-to-backs we have. But yeah, the back-to-backs need to go personally. And then 24th, we're at home against the Sharks. 26th against the Leafs. That's interesting. Yeah, Habs-Leafs games are always very interesting in my opinion, especially the one last year, which I personally loved as a fan of the Leafs, who wanted them to go for it in playoffs because I knew the Habs weren't going to make it by that point. When the Habs were up 3-0 and then Toronto scored 6 straight, that was a fun game. And then we have another back-to-back, the 30th and the 31st. The 30th is Arizona, which shouldn't be too hard, but the 31st on Halloween, which is interesting. I think they could do something fun there. I feel like that's the game where they're going to go with the nicknames, I think. Where, like, say, for example, Tatar's going to have Tuna, Gallagher's going to have Galley. I think that's the game where they're going to have the nicknames, for at least the Habs, I think, personally. But I don't know. Given they're in Vegas, they might just do home team only names, and then we'll have to have it at another game. But I digress. Another back-to-back. I'm not a fan of it. The second, we're in Dallas. This is something funny. This is something I'm noticing. To start the season up till this point in Dallas, it's 3 games at home, 3 games away, 4 games at home, 2 games away, 2 games at home, 3 games away. 3-1 pattern. I feel like we have a lot more. I feel we have quite a few more home games in the second half than the first half, which could play to our advantage, obviously, because of the Montreal crowd. Speaking of Montreal crowd, the first real notable game, Habs against the Bruins, is the 5th of November, which is definitely going to be a very, very exciting game, I think. Bruins are probably going to get dominated by the Habs, given I have the Bruins out of the playoffs, which could actually probably be another video topic. Where do I see the team standing before the start of the season? But yeah, I could definitely see Montreal going in and destroying Boston at home. The 7th, we're in Philadelphia. The 9th, we're in LA. And then the 12th, we're in Columbus. Columbus, LA, Philly, even. Uh, those are all very easy teams for us to beat, I find. Um, so that should be an easy games. I think we're really going to have a winning record at this point in the season. Of course, unless Carey Price gets injured, in which case we're screwed for the season, and it's going to be like a 2-win season. Actually, I don't know. Keegan Kay could probably hold his own as a starting backup, as a starting goaltender. And then this is something I'm really not fond of: a double back-to-back, 15th, 16th, 19th, 20th. It's Washington, Jersey, and then Columbus, Ottawa. Columbus, Ottawa, I'm not too worried about, even though it's still a back-to-back. It's still two of the worst teams in the league. But then the 15th, 16th, Washington, Jersey. A hard team in the Devils and a should be easy matchup against the Capitals. So I reverse that. Sort of hard matchup against the Capitals and a should be easy matchup against the Devils. Even though they do have Jack Hughes and they should be a little hard to deal with. 23rd, we are at home against. 15th, we're away. 16th, we're in Montreal. 19th, we're in Columbus. 20th, we're at home. I find that a little weird. 23rd, and we go on a 5-game at home stretch right here. It's Ottawa for the second half of that second back to back. The 23rd with the Rangers, 26th with the Bruins. That's another interesting matchup. 28th with the Flyers, and then 30th with the 28th with the Devils, 30th with the Flyers, that's a weird one because that's at 3 p.m. Usually the 3 p.m. games are the ones that are like in St. Louis and Minnesota, East Coast games. Are places like St. Louis and Minnesota, who are a couple hours ahead, I believe. So our 3, I don't know anymore. Yeah. But yeah, that should be a fun home stretch. The first, we're in Boston for the first time of the season. That should be interesting. Third, we're against the Islanders. That's an easy matchup, 100%. Another double back-to-back, the 5th and 6th. It's Colorado and the Rangers, and then it's Pittsburgh, Ottawa. Like I said, I really don't like how we're doing the back-to-backs right now. I just feel like with the constant, it seems to be constant back-to-backs, and now we're in this little area with the back-to-back. I don't know how that favors for the Habs. Obviously, they have the 3-day break in between the 6th and the 10th, the end of the first back-to-back, start of the second, and then they have the third between the 16th and 19th of November back-to-backs. But I still feel like the back-to-backs could mess us up, especially since the Avalanche are a pretty good team, and the Rangers are going to definitely be fighting for a playoff spot, I think. And then Pittsburgh, who's probably going to miss the playoffs, sadly, and then the Senators, who are going to be a sweep of them, probably. I don't know. And then the 14th, we're at home against Detroit, and I think that's where the destruction is going to happen. I think that's where the 10-1, 12-2 victory is going to happen with the Red Wings, us over the Red Wings. So I think that's one guaranteed destruction. Do I think we're going to have something like last year where we're going to have 9 goals scored on us by a Minnesota Wild team that didn't even make the playoffs and leave Price in for 7 of those games? Yes, I think we will at some point during the season. I mean, every team lays an egg on the ice once in a while. And then we're in our Canada stretch. We're in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Carolina. All Canadian teams. That's actually that's all during the second half of the season. We're not even at home for any games during Christmas. We're in Vancouver, the 17th, Calgary, the 19th, 21st, and 23rd, Edmonton and Winnipeg, respectively. And that's a back-to-back, 28th, 29th, Tampa, Florida, and then the 31st in Carolina, which is interesting. I wonder how the Carolina crowd is going to treat the Habs, knowing we offer sheeted their good player, their only good player, or only phenomenal player, I should say, in Sebastian Aho. I'm really wondering how they're going to react. If they're going to taunt us with with Aho asshole chance or whatever. But I don't know. And then again, they're probably not gonna be like New York because every place is better than New York except Philadelphia. Philadelphia's the only place worse than New York. And then to start the new year, so far predictions sort of ish. At the end of the year, not the season, the end of the year. Um, I don't know. I'm predicting we're gonna have 15, 20 or so wins. Actually, I don't know. Okay, yeah, because there's like 40. Yeah, there's 42 games each. I see us having about 20, 25 wins. Obviously, I'm not gonna say, oh, we're winning every single game. I'm not my dad. We're gonna lose a couple games, or probably quite a few. But I'm gonna say 25 victories by the end of the year, and now into January to the end of the season, and hopefully into the playoffs. The second is against Tampa. Fourth is against Pittsburgh. And I just noticed, actually, now that I think about it, we don't have a big 7-game home stretch. We don't play 7 games in a row at home like we do with the 7 games at home to finish December. Which obviously I know they have to it's really complicated to book, and like, okay, make sure these dates are available and whatnot, but still it's but yeah, 6th and 7th is another back-to-back. So they've sort of slowed down on them, except for actually no, they really haven't slowed down on them. Now we're sort of starting to slow down on them. Sort of. 6th and 7th, we're in Winnipeg, or we're at home in Winnipeg. At home in Winnipeg. We're at home against Winnipeg, and then the 7th, we are in Detroit. I feel like, honestly, we're so used to destroying Detroit at home. I think if the December game is not the destruction of Detroit, it's this January 7th right here. I think this is the game where the Detroit Red Wings get destroyed by the Montreal Canadiens in their building. If it's not in the Little Caesars Arena, I want to say it is. If it's not in the Bell Center for Montreal. And then we've got another little Canadian team thing. 9th, we're against Edmonton. 11th, we're in Ottawa. And then the 13th, we're against Calgary. Those should be some easy games, I would think so, especially Edmonton and Ottawa. Calgary should be a little bit of a fight. Apologies for my constant yawning. And then the 15th, 16th is another back-to-back. We're against Chicago, and then we're in Philadelphia. I feel like as the season goes along, these back-to-backs are going to be much easier because we're going to be used to them. So I don't know. I feel at the beginning of the season there could be a disadvantage towards us, but I think that as the season goes along, it's going to be easier for us to adjust to the back-to-backs and be like, all right, just another back-to-back. Let's go. We're in Chicago tonight, and then we got to fly out to Philly, or drive out to Philly. I don't think Philadelphia even takes airplanes. They're big dump, really. Yeah. My Philadelphia viewers, please come to Canada. You're probably better off here. And then the 18th, the final game before the big All-Star break, at home against Vegas. And then, of course, it's the All-Star break, which means 9 days off. It's the... Just a second. I really should have done the stream way later than I thought. But our first game back at home, we're against the Washington Capitals. And then the 30th is against the Buffalo Sabres. And then another back-to-back, and this one is probably the most notable for me personally. The first, we're in Montreal against Florida. Then the second, we're against Columbus, which I know it's not an interesting game on the surface, but it's interesting to me because that is hometown hockey, which of course is every Saturday for the regular season. But it's near me. I'm not gonna. Well, I might as well say you can find it online. It's in Chateauguay, Quebec. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go to that. That's probably the only game I'm gonna technically attend this year. It's probably like $20 to go there. So I think it'd be fun to go to hometown hockey and listen to a lot of awful country music and watch a Habs game where they're probably gonna win. It's at 2 p.m., which actually probably means I'm not going to do a stream right from the building or outside wherever it takes place. It's gonna be cool as shit, anyways. Most likely, since it's February in Montreal. Um, but yeah, I'm probably going to when I get back, I'll do a review unless somehow I'm able to get Wi-Fi over there, and then I'll think about doing a review over there. I probably won't though. I'll probably be back here as usual. My cheeks will just probably be extremely rosy from being outside. So that review would probably come around 7, 8 o'clock maybe. But yeah, I think that one would be a really fun game. Hopefully I can attend it. It'd be dope if I could somehow get tickets to the Florida game the night before, or the day before, which is at 2 p.m. as well, and then go to Columbus. But that's probably not gonna happen. I wouldn't want to see Panthers live anyway, even though I have a Panthers jersey. It's actually right over here, but I'm not gonna get up and show it because I got this to continue. So yeah, February 2nd. That's the one of the most notable games for me because I might be going there, or not seeing the game. Obviously, hometown hockey, which I think is going to be pretty fun. And then the 4th, we are in Anaheim. We're in Jersey. And then the 6th, we're at home against Anaheim. The 8th against the Maple Leafs, always a notable matchup. And then the 10th against the Coyotes. A 3-game home stretch. That's not too bad. 12th again, the 12th of February. Valentine's Day, I think. Is Valentine's Day on the 12th or is it the 14th? No, it's actually the 14th, I'm pretty sure. But the 12th is the battle in Beantown, the Bruins hosting the Canadiens, and it's always ravenous in there. That's gonna be a fun game. And then the 14th on Valentine's Day, we take on the Pittsburgh Penguins in Pittsburgh. That'll be fun to see, I think. I don't know. I think that might be one of the few games during the game of. I don't know. I'll have to see what my schedule is looking like. Probably nothing. And then the next day, it's a part of a back-to-back. The 15th, we're at home against Dallas. And I believe it's the second to last back-to-back for us. The 18th against the Red Wings. That could very well also be the that could also very well be the destruction date. It's in Detroit, which is interesting, but I don't know. I don't know if it will be. 20th we're in Washington, and then the 22nd we're in Ottawa. I really think these away stretches, these several game away stretches, hurt us a little bit, but I don't think they're going to hurt us as much as it seems they will. Because obviously we're used to playing in other buildings. I mean, 42 of our games are played in different buildings, not the Bell Center. But I feel like out of all of those, I feel Detroit would probably be the worst to us. Capitals, the only thing they don't like us for is 2010 embarrassing them as they always get embarrassed in the playoffs. I mean, who loses to Carolina in 7 games in the first round when you're projected to win the cup again? And then, of course, Ottawa, it's going to be 75% Montreal fans. It's going to be like a Bell Center 3.0. 25th, we're at home against the Canucks. 27th against the Rangers. And then the 29th, which is an interesting matchup against the Hurricanes again. And then the 3rd, we're in New York. 5th, we're in Tampa. 7th, we're in Florida. Surprisingly, that's not a back-to-back. Yeah, I think those games should be majority easy, except for Tampa at that point, Carolina, and the Rangers. I think everyone else should be a relatively easy matchup for the Canadiens. And then the 10th, we're against Nashville. 12th, we're against Buffalo. This could hurt us a little bit. 15th, we're against Anaheim at 4. 17th in LA at 10:30. 19th against San Jose at 10:30. 21st against Colorado at 7. So the time's kind of fluctuating there near the end of the season, which of course it's always like that for the California games, which I don't get why Anaheim's at 4 and not 10:30 as the other ones are, but yeah. 24th against the Sabres, 26th against the Panthers. Just a second. And then the 28th is notable. That's the final home game of the season, unless we make the playoffs. It's the 31st in Chicago, and this marks the final back-to-back of the season. the April 1st against the Nashville Predators. Both those games start late, 8:30 and 8 respectively for the Blackhawks and Predators, which is that's an interesting. I don't get why it's a bit later. I guess because it's Chicago, Nashville, and they're an hour ahead or something, or an hour behind. Excuse me. But yeah, and then the final game of the season in Toronto. That's always an interesting one. If Paling plays that, he's probably gonna get like 19 points just from that game. President's Trophy winning Montreal Canadiens. No, but really though, the season is looking good for us. I find. To get to the players for a second, I think we have a really really good team. If Paling is able to play third line minutes, I still say move Koki and Emmy down to the fourth. Suzuki would be a really good second or third line right winger because we already have the first line of Dano, Gallagher, and Tatar, and then Domi's on that second line with I would think Lettinen and Suzuki. Drouin's down on the third with Paling, which is gonna hurt Paling. Him being with someone like Drouin, who I still think we should trade away, if not for the fact that it would probably get me views for being able to live stream and report on it, like one of the first to report on it. But yeah, and then of course our defense. I think our defense is looking quite good. Weber, Mete, Petrie, Sherratt, and Kulak Folin, I believe, are going to be the lines unless Juleson is good to go, which I don't think he will be. I think he'll be good in a couple months, and he'll come into the lineup most likely. And of course our goaltending tandem: Price, Kincaid, Primo, and Lindgren in the minors, along with Michael McNevin, who I think could be a really good backup goaltender for Kid and Primo in a couple years. So yeah, this actually was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. I didn't have too many thoughts aside from the back-to-backs really hurting us. I think the Detroit games are definitely worth noting. The Bruins games are going to be really fun to watch. It sucks I won't be able to go to one of them, but I definitely understand. I mean, they're way too expensive, the Bruins games. A lot of back-to-backs. Like I said, I don't like that, especially near the start of the season. Like looking at it, there's quite a few back-to-backs. I'm gonna try and count them all while I am talking to you. Okay, so I thought there was 9 earlier. There's 13 back-to-backs. So there's actually 26 games that take place in the span of 2 days. Or there's 2 games, obviously, in a back-to-back. So there's 26 games. There up to 13 games that we could end up losing simply because it's a back-to-back. Like I said, of course, near the end of the season, we should get used to doing so many back-to-backs. But still, 26 games could rely solely on the fact that they're back-to-backs. If we lose those 13 games, that very well could cost us a playoff spot. We could go from possibly 45 wins to 35 or somewhere around there, 32 wins, if we were to get 45 wins just based on those losses. But with the season, where do I see the Canadiens standing? I'm going to say they got a wild card spot with 47 wins. Yeah, I don't know, 47. I'm going to say wild card spot with 43 wins. I think they beat out the Bruins in a wild card spot by like 2 points. Yeah, I see Tampa. Let's get into my actually no. I'm not gonna get into what I think are the something just happened? Okay. Well, hopefully it's because it seems the stream's a little laggy. I'm gonna get out in a minute. It's unstable. Okay. All right. So, but yeah, I see the Canadiens finishing in a wild card spot. Okay, it just disappeared. So I'm going to repeat that just in case. I see the Canadiens in a wild card spot. I definitely see the top of these standings being Toronto, personally, Tampa, Florida, Montreal, and then below the playoff line is Buffalo, Detroit. I feel like I'm forgetting a team, Ottawa. I feel like I'm forgetting our team in our division. Yeah, Tampa, Toronto, Montreal, Florida, Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa, Boston. Oh, Buffalo. Everyone forgets about Buffalo. Boston, Buffalo, Ottawa. Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa, I should say. Buffalo definitely can push for a playoff spot, I find. So, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, favorite and everything, which includes but is not limited to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and everything else. My name is Sarah Rice. Subscribe to Puff Club today. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm probably not going to use my Twitch often, but in case I do, you might want to follow me on there in case I do play some games and it's not on here. If I can get OBS to work. Twitter I use sometimes, not too often. If I really have something to say about something that's trending right now, I'll say it on there. Usually, I won't make a full video on it. My Amazon wish list is also down there. I've mentioned it in every video because I mentioned the links down there. If you want to support me, and since I don't have a dono page, my wish list is down there, I guess. I don't know. It's on obligations. Just if you really like my content and want to show your support, that's the only way you can right now. My letterbox is also down there. That's for when I review movies or give star ratings for movies and basically just tell you what movies I've seen. It's basically, don't click the link if you don't want to get spoiled for movies I absolutely love and want to wait for a certain video that I may or may not be coming out with soon in the future. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the Puff Club today. Subscribe to the HD Club, gang. Thank you once again, Jesse, for buying me the HD webcam. That's greatly appreciated. I'm gonna find a way to plug you in every video. My name is Harry Rice, and I am out. Peace.